Good evening and welcome to the Gothic Bohemian Salon. This is Jwlhyfer and I'm back making a video about being an outcast from society and whether that is necessary for understanding a subculture's mindset, be it the goth subculture or any other. I kind of felt like my last video I talked a lot about shopping, which is an activity that I enjoy very much, but it may have diluted my argument a little bit, so I wanted to clarify and also perhaps go into it a little bit deeper. And I also wanted to explain why I think people should not wear real Victorian clothing as a rule. So the first thing being the outcast from society. Basically, I don't think that striving to be an outcast is what's necessary, or striving to fit in is what's necessary, either to be a member of the Gothic subculture or any other. I believe that what you want to do, what the noblest thing is to commit to your own sense of aesthetics, your own sense of how you'd like your life to be, and if that falls outside of the norm, then you know that you might end up becoming somewhat of an outcast. That said, the Gothic subculture came out of the punk subculture, and punk is about going against society. Society has many ills, as we all know, and I do think that there is something noble in standing up for what you believe in, and if that goes against society, then it's not surprising that it would go against society, in other words. Most people's impulse is to fit in and not attract any attention or cause any problems or ripples, disturbances, so to speak. But the whole idea of punk was to disturb, to cause ripples, to make people uncomfortable. And I think that as long as the intention is to make people think about deeper things within the culture, that's a noble enterprise. We want people to think. We don't want them just to mindlessly go about doing their thing. The message can be lost sometimes in the interpretation of going against the norm, however. People don't see past tattoos or clothing or makeup to the person and what they're trying to say. So sometimes it gets in our way of trying to tell our story and trying to make people think, which is I hope what most of us are trying to do. In that case, then getting compliments from complete strangers isn't such a terrible thing, because hopefully what's happening is they're being inspired to express something within themselves that is akin to what you're expressing, and there can never be anything too wrong with that, as long as It's something that comes from within them as well. That said, the whole Gothic sensibility has become extremely acceptable in our culture. It's become fashionable several times now. And like I said in my other video, black clothing is everywhere. Clothing with motifs on it, like skulls and crosses and things, are everywhere. Pastel goths and Gothic Lolita and new goths are sort of diluting our aesthetic and making it more palpable to the masses. And I think that's probably why they can be so irritating, is that sorry, not palpable, palatable is what I was trying to say. So in other words, the masses see New Goth, and they see Pastel Goth, and they see Gothic Lolita, and they're not as frightened or nervous about it as they might be a full-on goth. It's more cute, it's more sweet, and more palatable. And in that way it becomes more fashionable and more mainstream, more widespread. And once again, we have our shopping opportunities, but our message is diluted and fades away. So what is the message that we're trying to get across, I wonder? Is it that death is something to be welcomed or thought about in a more positive way than we've been taught? Is it that there are beautiful aspects of things that were considered to be too macabre to be beautiful in the past? Is it that black is not antisocial, it's elegant? I'm not sure. There's a lot of things that have become really popular in the last 25, 30 years that I never thought could ever become popular because it was too morbid or involved things that were just too outside of the mainstream. Things like funerary art and architecture and postmortem photographs, taxidermy, antiques involving all of these things are very collectible now. They're very there's shops that you can go to find these things. It's easy, a lot easier than it used to be. Bones are around everywhere. There's things made of bone that you can buy. Nobody bats an eye about something made of bone or about having bones. I mean, it depends, of course, if you're not in a major city. If you're out in the middle of nowhere, you probably don't have the advantage of these things being a part of the mainstream, and maybe you are getting that, you are being treated like an outcast, or you are getting those queries about whether you're a Satanist or an evil person, or if you're against God or something like that, just by expressing yourself the way that we often do. I think if you are one of those people, wear it like a badge of honor, and remember that the people that came before you had to go through that too. And you can always move to another place where what you like is more acceptable or more accessible, where there are more people like you. I've just found out that I may be able to go to Bats Day this coming year, which would be really great. And from what I understand, somewhere in the number of 1,000 to 2,000 people go to this thing every year, which is pretty amazing. Bats Day is a day that's where Goths or Gothic people go to Disneyland in California and kind of take over the park in a sense. And there's a black market where they sell Gothic-related things, and there's meetups and all kinds of interesting things going on. It sounds great, and I've been wanting to go for a while, so hopefully I can. It looks like it might be possible, so that's exciting. Remember, I've been through the time when being a Gothic person was very much against the norm, and I am still constantly surprised about how accepting people are of me now. Every time somebody compliments me on my hair, I just shake my head. I'm so unused to compliments. My hair is blue and this kind of crazy magenta color. You can't really see it in this light at all, but it's pretty bright in the sun. I also said I was going to talk about why you should not wear Victorian original clothing. So I'm going to just very quickly touch on that. The reason why I believe that one should not wear vintage clothes, and I mean anything that's older than, say, the 60s, is because our bodily oils break down the fibers in the clothing as soon as our skin touches it. These clothes are often one of a kind, and if not one of a kind, they're getting more and more scarce as time goes by. They start to deteriorate and fall apart as soon as we put them on. It's better to have something made that approximates or is a copy of something old and wear that than it is to wear something that's really genuinely old. If you're very careful and you rotate your clothes and you don't wear any one thing very often, I suppose you might be able to get away with it, but I curated an exhibition of Victorian mourning clothing and accessories, and I was working with all black clothing, and my ideas changed about wearing antique clothing at that time, because I saw firsthand how our interaction with the clothes caused damage. And these things, they were often made by hand. Like I said, there isn't a lot of it left. It's getting harder and harder to find it. Anything that's in a size that will fit a person is even more rare. And we should be curators and caretakers of these clothes, not destroyers of them. So this is why I believe that one should not wear vintage clothing. And I very strongly stand by this idea and this attitude. I'm very sorry if you have a different opinion. If you think that you're careful enough, you can always have something spilled on you, or someone else can rub against you, or something can get torn. You may not intend for something to happen, but it may happen anyway. And then then you have to deal with trying to repair something that it might be impossible to repair. So have copies made. Find a good seamstress or tailor, and or learn how to sew yourself. And there's many more sewing patterns for making Victorian clothing than there ever was when I was younger. The major pattern companies have very accurate, very easy to understand patterns. Especially, I think it's called Making History, and I believe it's Butterick. Not sure exactly, but if you look for the Making History patterns, they're really good, and they explain everything. If you need boning or other supplies, or ribbon or stuff that to trim your bustle gown or whatever it is you're going to make, try places like Lacis and other places online to get those kind of trims and things, and learn how to make the stuff yourself. It'll be a lot more satisfying, and you won't be ruining something that may be the only one of it left. So, in conclusion, I hope that you understand why being an iconoclast, or somebody who is there to open the mainstream's eyes a little bit, is desirable. And I hope you understand why being an outcast isn't such a terrible thing. And I hope that the next time you encounter some difficulty, you wear it as a badge of honor. Thank you so much for joining me in the Gothic Bohemian Salon. Do take care, and good night.